would like to go ahead and start with the pledge allegiance. Let me understand. I'll say that. You're good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hold on.
Craig Berry.
Here.
Jim Stern.
Here.
John Ellis.
Here.
Randy Court.
Here.
John Fox.
Here. At this time, I'm going to go to the good of the order. If there's any comments from guests, members, or staff at this time,
We have two packets. Which one do I look at?
you'll be looking at the one that was handed out last. And if you look at the bottom where it says executive session, that is reads deliberations with the only change that just said.
The packet could be the same except for the agenda.
Okay, that's it. Just the front page.
Okay, moving on. No comments. We'll go to safety committee minutes. You.
I'd make a motion to approve those.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No. Put a comment on the no. Okay. Board of regular session minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the board of directors minutes from the past meeting as presented.
We have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Favor?
Aye.
On to the financial report.
Believe I did. It's to get my packet here.
When do you guys receive your packets?
And was familiar.
It came in the mail. That's not.
When you normally. We mail them on Thursday.
I usually get mine on Tuesday. No, I usually get mine on Monday. If it's mailed out on Thursday, I get it Monday.
Yeah, I think they go to Portland now. That's the problem.
Yeah, they do.
They have a whole lot of time. But
They get emailed to you on Thursday.
I did have one question on financials about contract services, page 18. Little above middle of page. Like we spent everything in that line item.
Which line, Jim?
It's well, it's 551600100. Contract services, a little above middle of page and 18.
is that our ESCO? Not ESCO.
Is that what?
Is that our source? Our cellular oriented communications? That is?
Oh, is that what it is?
I think so.
No, Source has its own line item.
Contract services is our audit supervising position. Those are the big ones. State Ethics Commission, we just paid. False Point Lexington. So these are all things that come up one time per year.
Early in the budget year, yeah.
Pretty much.
Looks like we're about $1,200 over on that line.
The State Ethics Commission, we budgeted $975, we actually paid $1310. Other than increase from last year's. So,
Overall in the category, we're fine.
the audit, we budgeted 16,500, it actually cost 18,000.
Probably some things we need to make a note for budget development this year.
How do we spend incentives?
That's broken up between things like Christmas party,
Awards for the awards bank.
awards banquet.
Okay.
I'll tell you exactly what's included in there. Awards banquet, Christmas incentive, district Christmas party, fire party meals and incidents, holiday meals, awards, mercy flights for members.
I'm ready to accept the financial report as presented.
Is that a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Craig Barry.
Yes.
Jim Stearns.
Yes.
John Ellis.
Yes.
Randy Quirk.
Yes.
And John Foster.
Yes.
All right, correspondence. We received a letter from the union and
Jenny, would you make copies of this for me, please? Okay.
well, that's been completed. Let's move on to the balance billing. We'll have a discussion on that, so we'll come back to discuss the funds we got to do.
So I referred to page 26 and 27. Of the word packet. So this is just for information on our fire med and our mercy flights as a new balance billing law. And we got information from our contractor, our billing contractor, on how it's going to affect us. They don't believe it's really going to affect us much because it really just affects commercial insurance companies. Medicare and Medicaid already had balance billing restrictions on them. And in fact, it might actually add a little bit to our income because we are required to submit our rates to the state, which we have done. And then it looks like commercial insurance companies have to pay those rates. Having said all that, we just have to kind of let it go for a little while and see how it comes. Not too concerned about it.
Yeah, and in reading through that, I felt a lot better about it. After I read through it, you know, they're setting at 300% Medicare.
Is this something to do with the term I think we've used in the past about, or maybe I don't fully understand about accepting assignments from Medicare? In other words, they tell us what they're gonna pay and that's it. There's no other
Correct.
way to, okay.
All right, any other questions on that?
So we've submitted the rates to the state and everything's in motion for us to maybe receive a little bit more income. That's
Yeah.
great.
And one thing we discussed last month was on the fire med, and I see we cleared that up. There's no 50% on fire med, that's on mercy flight. Good.
Right, moving back to correspondence, we received a letter from the union on a formal request to revisit and implement the 2023 SBA organizational assessment. Chairman, would you like to just give an overview to the board on the letter and the union's position?
Yeah, so the letter is, we all remember, it started in 23. That summer, we did a kind of an internal climate review that drove us going further and getting the SDO to come out and, check our organization, going through policies, this deep into policy and then into personnel and everything in between. And from that, they gave us a number of suggestions. If you guys remember, 2023 was a period of high turnover for our department. We were down to minimum staffing on all 3 shifts during that period. I think we might have fallen below at a point there. So from that, we, implemented a lot of the solutions that came from that SDAO review and from that climate survey. And now we just seem to be getting into another period of high turnover. We've lost 4 personnel already, with potential for a few more to go in the future. And, want to see this department be successful and try and maintain personnel and see if there's anything that was missed in that review or anything that we can implement from that that'll help with our retention side. But I think we're doing a good job on the recruitment side. It's the retention side that we're falling short. So that's a big driver of it, as well as just, is there anything in there that we didn't touch on? We haven't spoken about that since we did a big whiteboard for the most part.
I know that as you stated, we have worked and hit a lot of the points and complete them, the SBAO study. What I would suggest to the board, we'd like to get feedback on, is maybe we have a workshop to revisit the SBAO study. We have completed the tasks that were in it, but times have changed over the period from 2023 to where we're at right now. And I think it would be a good opportunity for us to revisit that and see if we need to do some additional actions or where we're at with it.
I agree.
Comments?
Yeah, I agree. I think we done, but it also felt like we kind of took a turn between the study and what we thought it meant and then what we implemented. I think it really didn't really go the direction I thought it was going to go. So I'd like to restart that as well.
If the board is in concurrence, we'll go ahead and schedule something within the near future. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may add, this isn't just, the e-board grabbing something and throwing it out there. We actually held a vote on this through the union and we got unanimous support from all the members who were there. So everyone who attended our union meetings was 100% in support of reviewing this. So you have the staff backing you to move forward and look at this as well.
Very good. Keith, if you would coordinate, schedule a meeting or a workshop, I should say. Any other correspondence?
No.
Internal control policies.
There was a grievance. Is that count?
The address.
Okay, that doesn't count as court.
So on the internal control policy, I'll refer you to page 28 of your board packet. So this came up in relation to our credit card. It was noticed that we was accumulating and carrying a lot of award points, and the question was, do we have a policy on how we can use those award points or how we should not use those award points? So I just added a line to our already existing internal controls policy, and I highlighted that line. So it says if the credit card accumulates reward points, those reward points may only be used for district purchases. And if the board is accepting of that language change, then we'll make it a permanent part of the internal controls policy.
You need a motion on that?
If it's a policy change, I would say yes.
I'd make a motion to accept the language change in the internal policy document.
Second that motion. Motion and second. All in, roll call vote.
Craig Berry.
Yes.
Jim Stern.
Yes.
John Ellis.
Yes.
Randy Court.
Yes.
John Foster.
refer you to page 29 and 30 of your board package. So just a reminder, there is a county-wide regionalization study going on between all the fire agencies in Jackson County except for Bedford Fire and View Falls Fire. And this is an outside contractor that is coming in and doing a very major, very comprehensive study to see how we can all work together to save money. It may be things like contract services, maybe things like mergers, et cetera. So at this point, we're just in the data collection process that's coming to a close here in a couple of weeks. We have been very busy supplying all the data under the subject matters that you see on page 29 and 30 and submitting that. And then the next step will be site visits where they'll have a group come out to every agency, visit with staff, and we'll go over. I just wanted to show you the types of items that we provided information. Mainly so you can see how comprehensive the study is going to be. So even if it does not result in major changes in like how we exist together, at a minimum, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. So, really excited about that from this.
Is this kind of dovetail with the alliance?
It's outside the alliance. It's, I would say it's a lot more comprehensive than the alliance in that it includes all the agencies and stuff.
Right.
All the agencies in the county.
Yes, except for you two.
So have they done this kind of study before, and if they share that, was there some positive outcomes in one of the studies?
I don't have details for you on studies they've actually done, but I think if you was to go to AP Triton.
Okay.
And look at their website, you'd probably find out a lot about that.
AP Triton is a,
I did that because I'd never heard of them.
Mhm.
And they're relatively new, just been around 2 years, but it's pretty impressive, the work they've done.
All right, great.
they're out of California. The person who is doing this is the former Alameda City Fire Chief, who's retired. So there is the individuals who's the project manager on this is a fire basin knowledgeable. The policy title.
Cameron, do you need more time on this?
We can be good on it. I think looking at a lot of it, it makes good sense where the stuff that's getting removed and where we're transitioning the items to. So a lot of it we're not losing as far as policy goes. It's just getting transitioned to a different format, if you will, without standing orders and aspects. So I believe we're good on you guys moving forward with that.
Okay, so I'll refer all of you to page 31 through 34 of your board packet. This is a list of our flexible policies. There's about 175 of them, which is too many policies. So what I did was I went through here and mainly what I did was I flag policies that are duplicated someplace else. So we don't want the same information in two different documents because it can create conflict. So on the left column, you'll see all the policies. On the right column, you'll see documents where those policies exist elsewhere. And in the case of those items, I'm requesting that we just remove those policies altogether. And then on some of them, you're going to see the letters OG. That just means that I believe it's an operational type policy. I'm not asking us to remove it. I just mean it's operational. And then there's a couple on here that I just put the word eliminate, if I think it's necessary for the policy.
So, question for you, when you're saying such as, I'm going to refer to response time standard, you want to delete it from our policy manual because it's in the Rogue Valley Fire and Rescue Standing Orders. Is that correct?
Correct.
Some of these items that I see where you're referring on to like response time standards. Another one is scene preservation that jumps out at me and everything. Some of these have, I think, legal ramifications that we need to have them in our policy. Yes, that policy will refer it to the other jurisdictions, like the Rogue Valley Fire Chief Standing Orders or things of that nature. But we may want to check with legal because I believe that we have to have some sort of a policy in reference to that. Even though it operationally, we use another standard, we still have to have something in our policies that says we have that.
Yes, I think code enforcement might be along those lines as well.
Have we adopted, we being the board, adopted the Rogue Valley Fire Rescue Standing Orders?
That's something.
So are we delving into these individual items at this time, or are you just presenting this to kind of show us what we have currently? Because I mean, I could have a couple of questions to this, that I would ask if this was the time.
So my intent is not to review individual policies.
Okay, that's fine.
My intent right now is to, get us down to a manageable number of individual policies and right now the safety committee is going through these policies, 1 or 2 per month and reviewing them. But right now I'm trying to just get us down to,
Pare it down to a good usable list. Good.
I think 175 is
A lot of codes. Yeah.
so.
So,
We do adopt Rogue Valley Standing Orders. And I'm looking at this for next month. What are you looking for?
And for business.
I'm not sure if I missed something, but it would seem to me that if we're gonna try to enforce Rogue Valley Standing Orders, we would need to adopt them.
Correct. And that's what Mike's.
I missed that part.
At next
Can't hear.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like, an example would be, scene preservation. Some of these, you can have reference, it'll still be in policy. Your policy would just read reference to. Our all of that.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
So
We'll be returning to the next board meeting.
are we going to return the entire list to the next board meeting? Or are we going to go through and see what was being paired, what was being left?
We have to first look into the adoption of the Rogue Valley Fire Rescue Standing Orders.
Okay.
And
But some of that, I don't understand, like some of them may have legal ramifications. So I think we might want to take a more granular look at this.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
it's machine surplus.
Well, this began with, the fact that our ice machine, which is 30 years old, it is, I think it's close to 30. The original one is the fire station, which is 30 years old. Failed, we bought a new ice machine and we would like to get rid of the old ice machine. Then that kind of turned into some other items that we think we can, get rid of. So the ice machine, there's a church in Eagle Point that would like the ice machine. But before I do something like that, I want to make sure we're being transparent on the proper disposal of it. One of our people owns that church. So don't want to So besides that, we have an old hose cart that I would like to donate to the Fire Museum in Oregon. We have a non-powered gurney, possibly donate to Road Community College. I haven't spoken to them about that yet. And I have some fire.
What's the value of the equipment you'd like to surplus?
So the ice machine, the new one's $3,500. The old one is 30 years old. I'd say it's worth $100 for that. The old hose cart, I don't know how to put a value on that. The non-powered gurney is probably the most valuable thing on there. We can't use it because all of our ambulances have power loaders in them now. So it will not accept everything.
What's, Ashland Ski Patrol is interested in hose to use for,
They would like to use it for building some dummies to help with dragging in their training program.
Cool. Yeah.
So,
well, maybe they were spraying water to get ice.
no.
No water there.
Thank you.
And the Ice Machine Church, is that a local
They're an Eagle Point.
Eagle Point?
You looking for a motion to do this stuff or do this discussion?
Assume you're looking for a motion to declare all these items as surplus and then approve disposal as outlined for disbursement.
Was that a motion?
I think yours is.
I make a motion that we allow the chief to disperse of these items as surplus, at his, discretion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dylan.
And just a roll call vote?
It probably could,
Craig
doesn't
Berry,
ever hurt to do
Yeah.
a roll call.
Yes.
Jim Sons,
Yes.
John Miller, Randy Port,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business. Solar grant.
Yes, we were one of the few proud recipients of a $603,000 fully funded grant to add energy resilience to this community. It'll allow us to generate our own electricity as well as provide 180 kilowatt hours of battery backup. So we will have power at night as well. There were 74 applicants and 24 awardees. This was the second time around. And it's a really huge benefit for the community. And I know I spent about 3 weeks of my time doing this. I can't really keep perfect track of that, but I'm excited to present this to the board. We have grant money coming in. You guys have any questions?
Well, I guess my big one is, will 603 cover this project?
Yes, yeah, I'm being told that there's decent cost savings from when the bid was done, and there's also contingency plans in there.
The other
Some
thing,
things we will have to pay for. That the grants just will not cover it. I mean, to cut you
I'm
off.
sorry, what?
Some things we will have to pay for. There's an auditor, or CPA will need to be involved. That could be somewhere north of $2,500, and that's just a requirement. And there will be some other time usage here as far as providing quarterly progress reports until we get the project done, doing the on-site audits, things of that nature. But the grant was written to cover those contingencies, except for the auditor.
And have we been in contact with the Pacific Power here?
Yes.
And
Yeah, so I contacted them. It's a pretty extensive process. It's called an intertie agreement. And they have to send it up to their engineers. Took quite a while to get it, and we were granted an intertie agreement.
I'd like to talk a little bit to the technicality of this process. If I could go to the whiteboard, maybe sketch a couple things. I'll try not to get it too far in the weeds, but it's kind of I'm not an electrician, but I work with this stuff a lot daily in my job, so if you guys can let me sneak up here real quick.
Would you like to draw it on a piece of paper and I can put it up on the board for you? Would that work?
I think this will be okay, John.
Okay.
Thanks for the offer. I need the exercise.
While we're getting to that, Craig, don't run off, you know. I went through the document and there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up,
Yeah, this was
dates and stuff primarily.
it was meant to be submitted as a draft, and I was expecting to see the full thing in the packet. I just wanted to illustrate that we have a good framework for the RFP. And the good thing is, this is the fourth time this has gone out to these public entities. So these entities have put up their RFPs and their contracts, and a lot of these are still existing on the internet. This is one I borrowed from Mount Hood.
Yeah, I see that.
It might be probably in there a couple times.
Yep,
And so, I spent a couple hours before I went to work one day trying to clean it up.
I would call your attention primarily, and not now, but
Yeah.
page 40's got a lot of dates and
Yeah.
names and stuff.
It's more of a general draft, and I wanted to provide us something so we weren't like scratching at the air.
So just real quick, not to get into the weeds on power distribution, we talk about three-phase power and how it gets here and where it comes from and stuff like that. Of course, AC power has been our grid power for over 100 years, and since middle 1800s. So the power you see, the three wires on the highest point of the poles, that's the high voltage, probably 70,000 volts in those lines. Then the secondary one's down around 7,000. It's transformed at substations, and then we bring it in transformers on our poles or underground, and we turn it into a voltage that we can use in our facilities. Most of what I call commercial, fire departments, hospitals, light industrial use like a delta, what they call, or this is actually called a Y connection. And the reason this works well is you have 120 volts from any neutral wire in this 4-wire to either any of these three phases. So in a building like a warehouse or something where a hospital, you need a lot of 120 volt stuff. You don't need a lot of real high voltage power. That's the system they normally use. And I've never really looked at the line drawings for this building, but I'm kind of just
I have them if you'd like them.
okay, putting stuff out there. Now, if you're in an industrial environment like across the street, and these squiggly lines are representing transformer secondaries, you would use a delta configuration, which would give you 480 or 240 volts on any phase to phase. And that would be considered industrial, typically power. Light industrial or commercial, motor loads are pretty small, maybe 10 horsepower, HVAC, pumps and compressors, your guys' pumps, basically air compressors, those types of motors are typically fairly small. Over at the mill, 200 and 300 horsepower motors, dryer fans, big pumps and industrial stuff. So this is just a little bit of an overview of three-phase power and how we use it. Now, the part that becomes interesting is we have generated this power for, like I say, over 100 and some years, and it's done by rotating magnetic fields inside magnets, typically electromagnets inside of stationary stator windings, and that's where the power is generated. So when you look at that power, we talk about.
Are you trying to illustrate a reactance curve?
I'm going to show you.
Power factor.
I'm going to show you an AC sine wave.
AC power factor. Yeah.
So if you graph this power that we're getting, and you make your x-axis time, and your y-axis is going to be volts or amps, you can graph it in what's called a sine wave. And that's a really easy waveform to use for a lot of reasons. The AC power allows us to transform real easily, and it's a very easy voltage transitions as it goes This is 0 volts. And this is whatever your volts may be, volts at top, and then this is negative. So the AC sine wave, electric motors, most of our transformers, all of our electronic equipment is designed to run with this type of power. If it was a 3-phase system, there'd be 3 of these running alongside 120 degrees of separation, and we don't need to go into totally that.
Yeah, this is a 3-phase.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So this is how power is generated at hydro facilities,
Anything that's been,
coal or
Yeah.
natural gas fired, even wind power is generated magnetically, electromagnetically. Okay, so along comes in the last, I'm going to say 25 years, the solar power photovoltaic cells. They produce DC power. They cannot produce any form of AC power. So with the advent of computers, ultra-fast microprocessors, and of devices that allow that DC current to be switched quickly, thyristors is one of the devices that's a fairly modern thing. I say modern, 20, 25 years they've been around. They allow us to take that DC power, which would be at a voltage like this, break DC, and they allow us to break that, shoot those DC pulses, and artificially create something that our grid and our equipment thinks is a sine wave. It is not a true sine wave. The only way to generate the true sine wave power is with a rotating magnetic field. So we create this kind of a pseudo power, and we force it back on our grid, which you can do, which is not easy, but it's like a square peg into a round hole. If you taper the corners and get a big enough hammer, you can make it fit in there. So the square wave is very sharp. These peaks are very abrupt as compared to the old, very soft and forgiving sine wave power delivery. Those peaks can cause problems, and I can't say they will here, but I know they will in a lot of places with insulation breakdowns, new electric motors. If you look at a lot of the newer ones, they're called inverter duty motors because they have special insulation and special bearings in them. I don't know what our HVAC compressors and motors are. I think a lot of it's still been here a while, but there's a potential there that it could be problematic and it may not be. The other thing about square wave power that we're putting in, this DC chopped up with an inverter, is it's very noisy, electrical noise. There's a lot of chances of electrical interference in communications and in other sensitive electronics. I know in the plants that I manage, anytime you run a inverter or a frequency drive, which is an inverter against an electric motor, the cabling has to be shielded. It's a very special cable to keep that RF interference in control. So those are just a couple points that I wanted to make about what these inverters, which are kind of a,
Can I ask a question?
sure, John.
So the conditions you just described, we won't know until we plug something in? There's no way to.
Well, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So there's a device called an oscilloscope, and it's capable of capturing this in real time and showing you how power is going back and forth. And there's some extremely high resolution. I run a $10,000 oscope
I've got one
professionally
in my job.
in my job, and so you'd be able to see anything that was if there was an issue with the inverter. They call these inverters nowadays true square or true sine wave inverters.
Which they're not really, but they
They're
call
called-
them that.
Well, they're not, but they are so close that they're imperceptible
They're trying to mimic it.
by almost every form of electronics out there. It'd be extremely rare to have any issues with them. I have several inverters that I operate
Mhm.
with some very sophisticated scientific equipment. I've had zero issues with them.
And we've had issues with them, and it's just the thyristors and the semiconductor devices and the triggering circuitry that makes us all magically try to mimic our very reliable grid power, sine wave power, is it's developing, but don't ever believe that you're getting true sine wave power out of a DC source. I'll get my oscilloscope out and talk to the guys about it. I think they promote that, but I don't actually think that is the case.
So we still don't know if we're gonna have a problem until we fire the system up. Either radio might not work, or lights will go whack, or could there be a?
No, that's not true.
Well,
I wouldn't
you know, oh, well.
I wouldn't necessarily expect an immediate thing to happen. But if something does happen, you get a motor that burns its windings out in an air conditioning compressor or a garage door opener or one of our pieces of equipment. Do they have any liability? Do we have any recourse to say, hey, this thing is,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah, these are, the inverters are going to be monitored remotely by 24/7. So if there's any issues with them, we'll know right away. That's part of the package is there's a communication package involved with the inverters.
Okay. And the electrical noise is an issue. I know that is the fact with square wave. It radiates.
These aren't square waves. So square wave is,
These are square wave pulses.
square wave is a square wave.
I know what square wave
It
is, but
looks
those,
just like this. That's a square wave.
yes, and if you tighten this time interval up to here, you'll see what they're injecting in. These are square waves of power. They're not a smooth sine wave. So I'll leave it at that. I just wanted you guys to understand it a little bit. If I could go back, navigate back to my chair, I'll
You
My-
back up along.
give my final. Sorry, my drawing is a little sketchy.
Thank you.
I'm still on a little bit of pain med, so not all cylinders.
Thank you, Randy. I think,
Way more than I ever knew.
I think we need to take a step back here, though. I understand that we were presented an RFP as a example of what an RFP should look like. I think we need to take a step backward. And I think the first thing we need to be asking is, first off, we haven't even accepted this grant. We need to be seeing the grant acceptance package, which would consist of the board voting and deciding if we move forward with this. The identity of the grant administrator, the identity of the grant contact person.
Yeah.
Also, we need to find out if there is any match requirements for this grant. If there are match requirements, are those a monetary match? Are they a in lieu or in kind match? And I think we need to have all those questions answered before we get into the actual
Parts of it.
parts of this.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So last night I got in my email and received an email from ODA, the grantor, requesting CREP contact details as well as some things that they didn't quite understand. And one of the things that and I can send this around to you guys. I'm sorry, my printer wasn't working so great. If you want copies, you can have them. But one of the things you're asking about was the $23,000 that they were asking about in kind. And that was part of the package when I wrote it. We received $3,000 through Energy Trust, and that money was spent on the feasibility study. We did put $400 in of our own cash a long time ago. And so that was included in that $2,300. The other $20,000 was kind of are we going to build a shelter that's going to protect the heat pumps back there? And can it also be used multi-purposed to provide some extra coverage for the battery system that will be stored outside? The batteries are very safe. They're lithium iron phosphate. And so they will burn if you light them on fire and pour gas on them, but they're not inherently flammable. But if they could benefit from that coverage, that was the other $20,000. So there's not actually an ask for 20 there. That was part of the grant, the way it was written.
So one of the other things too is I received that email and I also forwarded it to the chief and Jenna. One of the things that we need to look at, and Craig, you've been the spearhead of pushing this through, but there's a point where the department needs to be the contact person and the project manager thing, and that would fall on the responsibility of the fire.
They're gonna put it in here, isn't it?
John.
Like, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, move back around.
So I was going to. This one? Oh, sorry. No, not that one. This one, yeah, so this was the other paper, I'm sorry, I just got this morning. Yeah, I'll hand this back to you. So yeah, I don't want to be involved with this too much, it's short of
Showing you where the resources are.
right. And with that, Mike, Jen, and I believe you were on the phone call too. There was a discussion on the administration of the grant. That was the basis of the phone call, Chief.
Yes, I attended that,
That was-
that phone call. Yeah,
Okay.
so that was, they basically want to give us some timelines and expectations.
So what I would suggest is a lot of that information, I think is very relevant that the board knows. And for our next board meeting, this will be an agendized item where we specifically discuss the scope of the grant, which has been addressed. And I mean, simplistic things like for us non-electrical type folks, we know we don't want it on the roof. We know we want it on poles up on the bank.
Yeah, that's,
We know
Yeah.
all those type of things.
yeah, that is it.
In reading the grant, I see this is specifically for our operations. It's not an outreach operation. So if, for the next meeting, if we can come back with the specifics, so we can put the horse ahead of the cart on this one and see where we are actually with the grant process. And then upon review of that, we can start looking at what are the steps, what are the timelines, what are the requirements if the grant is chosen to move forward.
So one thing I do need assistance with now is completing the documentation on who to contact. They have a February 16th deadline on that they're asking for. So who are we going to choose?
I suggest we coordinate that through the chief.
Before we go too much further, I had several questions that are all related to the old one. Now we're gonna get a new music sheet, which is gonna change. One thing that kind of bothered me is the maintenance in there about how firefighters are gonna do all the maintenance. They're gonna have to be trained. Page 38 of the original thing, went into detail about personnel to perform maintenance. I'm wondering, is this up with the union? I don't know that I'd want to be doing maintenance on the electric system. I don't know how these guys feel. But they got enough to do already. Without taking into the maintenance, and then there's a liability thing. If they're not, would they have to be certified as electricians or what? So maybe it's gonna be a moot point when you go to the new music sheet. I'd like to know how we got there. And the other thing, my weird approach, but the same seemed like it was a copy of somebody else's work, because I was all excited about attending the site visit. Well, I discovered it was going to be held up in the fort for Mount Hood.
Yeah, so this is intended to be a draft. I borrowed,
So this thing is basically.
no, I didn't write,
We said, well,
I didn't write those 30 pages.
obviously, maybe you copied it somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a template.
When we get to the point where we have to prepare an RFP, it would be my recommendation that we involve our legal reviewing and working in conjunction with the chief on the development of an RFP. At that time, John, I think it would be appropriate that your questions would be answered and would be addressed. But I think at this time, we're just at the very beginning phases.
Yeah, that's obvious. And we got a time plan here that we got to beat into. And if the other thing, and I'm sure it'll be addressed, you just said, it seemed like it was going to increase the workload of the chief, especially. Also, Jenna, keeping track of all this stuff. They got more than they can handle right now.
So it's a fully funded grant. It's going to get rid of our power bill. And if you, okay, I know.
We're gonna talk about that later.
Sure.
This-
And
This is.
if you look at just conservative estimates of increasing power rates, not the 50% we've gone through in the last 6 years, but just conservative estimates, it has a 30-year lifespan that's gonna save the department almost $800,000.
They have no clue.
That's a.
Okay,
Well, I like to
sure.
read
I mean, but
something else.
we're in different ends of the
In the Daily Courier.
perspective here.
Yep.
There's a lot of, schools, Talent, down south, that are putting in solar power. And other schools are doing it, trying to do the battery.
No, so you're saying,
Reviewed, when I talk.
Yeah.
It was reviewed by, Ashland, now you think of Ashland of all places, being very progressive, looking forward,
Greenie.
they jump right on this. The Ashland School District installed solar panels at Ashland Middle School in 2024, underwritten by a school board bond at a cost of around 1.1 million. The district looked into installing batteries as well, but decided against it as untested and expensive, according to the operations director, Steve Mitchell. That's probably pretty good information.
except ours is free.
If I could comment just real quickly, I was trying to reserve a little time as I motor back to my seat. Reserve my time. A lot of the schools and stuff, those solar initiatives are hooks in the contract to get the grant money. They've got to have a percentage in new solar. It's part of the new Green Deal. They're mandated to do that. It's not all based on, hey, this is really efficient. Let's do this to save money for the next 30 years. So just be aware of that. A lot of that school stuff or public funded stuff has that built into it. You can, there's a few websites that talk about that. The other thing I just wanted to touch base on, and John pretty much touched it for me, is the workload for this fire district does not need to be increased for these potential energy savings. Fire district and an ambulance service needs to be brick and mortar, old school stuff that works. Gasoline, diesel engines, good ambulances, which I really appreciate more now, good equipment and stuff that's proven and sturdy. These new adventures into this Green New Deal, which these solar grants are the last gasp of the Green New Deal. It's petering out. But the whole solarize the world is not going to work. We're figuring it out. These are the last gasp of these solar companies trying to get these projects and make a living at doing this. And at that point, I'll yield my time.
I think this is going to be a very dynamic conversation on the solar proposal. Would this warrant a special meeting along with when we're presented the information of the grant itself, like awarding process, timeframes and all that, versus at a regular board meeting?
I think there should be a second meeting. We could expand it on.
Or is the board comfortable handling this and having a longer board meeting?
Whatever you guys prefer.
You let me know what information you need, and I can definitely bring it to a board meeting.
Okay,
It's up to- it's up to you.
Can you have that information by the
Yeah,
board meeting?
we'll go back and forth, and you tell me exactly what you guys think you need. I'd be glad to share it with you.
Craig, I just want to confirm that the grant money you're receiving is 603,000 now, not 550.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that's-
630 is what it came to total.
Um,
603, 630.
So we already talked about legal counsel, which I think is vitally important on, just for talking about this
Yeah.
money.
And I wasn't allowed to ask for that in the grant. They wouldn't provide for that. They want labor and parts. That's what they want.
And we also need, a CPA from the beginning. I reached out to our auditor.
Mhm.
There seems to be some question about whether or not our auditor can audit this grant.
Okay.
And so I reached out to Rick Brewster on that and haven't heard back yet, but we're looking at that.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I would also,
Yeah.
like more information on the required maintenance.
So maintenance is pretty simple on these. It's basically if you think that the panels are dirty, get someone to squeegee them off. But there isn't much
We're not
maintenance.
talking about electrical engineering type.
No, nothing's
No.
moving. There's no moving parts, but you want to keep the panels clean. I
We're
assume.
talking
So
about cutting the grass and
Cutting-
washing the panel.
watching the panels if you want optimum production. Yeah,
I see.
that's pretty much what they require.
Do the panels outputs degrade over time?
Of course they do. But they're guaranteed to give you 80% after 25 years. What they found is if you go with a high quality tier 1 panel, you're usually in the upper or the mid 90s after 15 years and near 90 at 25 years. So yeah, they do degrade over time.
I'm always
They're
amazed at
silicon.
companies that can put those numbers out of a guarantee when the product hasn't been out in the market for that long.
Solar panel?
It's gonna last 30 years. They've just made them 10 years ago. How do we know it's gonna last 30 years? Those are projections. Those are just engineering projections that it'll last that long. We don't really know that. We have no test group that says these last 30 years. That's my point.
I think there's a lot of,
One other thing, I realize we're gonna have another meeting, but has anybody bothered to check with the locals as to how they feel about this and what the impact it's gonna have on them? And holes, are we gonna be digging holes for that whole mountain back there? It's not gonna slide down the hill. We start disturbing things. There's a lot of questions. I don't want to see us wind up like a little pantry. They have one heck of a legal battle going on with their ice machines over there. And these guys probably know more about that than anybody. But we need to do some upfront work and before we get too far into this, or I mean, it's a tar baby is what it is.
I agree, and my suggestion to the members of the board is those type of questions that you do have is that we capture those and we address those questions. I think right now, though, at this point, let's get into the basics. Where are we at with the grant, and what is first off our financial responsibilities, if there is any? Because if they come back and say, hey, you're going to get 603,000, but you need to upfront 50,000. That's an issue that we would have to contend with. That's not being said there. I'm just using that as an example. So, all right, if there's no other comments, we will address this issue and have more detailed information for the next board meeting. In the interim, Chief and Craig, you'll be getting together here.
yeah, figure out there'll be a performance agreement that's coming out in about a month, which will be really close to the next board, but they need to know who to contact for that. And I'll have them contact. Chief will be the primary, and I'd like to be kind of an alternate just to see that it's taking place. And
There are no other questions. Let's move on to tablet command.
Okay, I'll refer all of you to page 64 of the board packet. This is a copy of the capital. So tablet command is a new, or not so new, program that we use in our apparatus. We don't have it yet. We have what's called mobile data terminals. Mobile data terminals give us an interface with dispatch, so we can change our status on the screen, we can do mapping, etc. Mobile data terminals are very expensive, about $6,000 per copy. But the value is moving toward tablet command, which is tablet instead of MPTs. Some advantages to that are that it has a lot more functionality. Things like we can look at we can watch units arriving to the scene so we can determine what we're going to do with them without talking on the radio. We can look at other people's fire plans, etc. And EXO is only going to support tablet command here in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So another advantage is the tablets cost about $1,000, MDTs cost about $6,000. So we need to go to tablet command. We need to do that now. The reason I need to do that now is because I have a new ambulance that's sitting downstairs that needs to be upfitted. And I don't want to spend $6,000 to put an MDT in it. I would rather go to tablet command now. In addition to that ambulance, I have two other ambulances that are not trackable by ECSO, and that's because they have pad router cables in them, pad routers rather. Those cost about $1,200 a piece. So I would like to go to tablet command right now. It makes financially sense to do that now. The problem is, if you look at page 64 in your board packet, I budgeted $10,000 for tablet command. I think it's gonna cost about $33,000. I don't have the quote yet. I reached out to Fire District 3, haven't got it back yet. I'm basing that number on the quote that Fire District 4 has. Assuming that it's about $33,000, what I would like to do to fund it, if you look at station alerting, we did budget $30,000 for that. I can actually move that to next year's budget. So we could use that money for it. And also station alerting, we think is gonna cost more like $12,000 rather than $30,000. That's my idea. Hopefully that's my plan. I don't actually have the quote yet, so if you want to table this until next month, I think that's okay. So we're actually talking real numbers, not just what I think the numbers are gonna be.
Appreciate the heads up. Are those only ambulance equipment, not fire?
Good one.
It would be both.
And is the goal to have a tablet per vehicle or?
Most of the vehicles, except for like the water tenders, want to have them. So they would be in the same vehicles that have MBTs now. So it's my rig, the 3 ambulances, the brush truck, the engine, every brush engine, but not the tender. So I think we need 8. So
It's, go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead, John. I'll hold it.
Is the pickup also set up with that? My reason for that is if your vehicle is to have a catastrophic failure or something, that would fall in as the backup for the command vehicle. You have that set up so you have the redundancy with radios. Would it also have this? Or would it have a docking station for one of these?
I did not plan it for the pickup truck. However, another advantage to tablet command is that the docking station is just a physical mount. So I think you could take the tablet from one unit and just move it to the other unit. Am I right about that?
That was my question.
The only issue, I think, you still have to have internet.
There.
So these
These
are,
got to be outfitted with internet.
so on the internet, on the vehicles, are they set up basically a hotspot type configuration, or is it through our cellular provider?
It's through the cellular provider, yes.
And it's called critical.
So they're wireless to load in a machine. It's all Wi-Fi in.
Actually, I think that's internal for the tablet.
Yeah,
That's one of the
tablets,
savings
it's
is we
internal.
don't have to buy a critical point, and we don't have the associated wires, and we don't have the.
So just to back up a little bit, you want to put it in a new vehicle. If you were to put the MDT in now, we'd be wasting about $6,000 down the road when we have to convert over. Is that right? Okay, that's a good heads up. Maybe if you brought us some better numbers next month, we could agree to move the budget around.
Okay, I'll come back with the quote, and in addition to that, we own these modern Windows 11 MDTs, and we would try to sell those to. I know Fire District 4 is trying to sell them to the Sheriff's Department. We would reach out and try to find buyers for them.
Recoup a little bit on it. Sure.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
All righty. Keeps comments.
We'll go through this really fast. So we submitted our annual ASA report to Jackson County. We're required to do that every year. Got that in a little ahead of schedule this time, and because of the other things that you have to do. The other thing I want to talk about is firefighter hiring. We have hired 3 people. The third one, not officially yet. They are in physicals. Casey Wilson, the firefighter paramedic. came to us from Fire District 6 in Mercy Heights. He already started and has been here for a couple of weeks. He's doing a great job. Austin Champion is coming to us from Fire District 6. He's a brand new paramedic, so we're gonna have to give him some experience before we cut him loose on his own. His start date, I believe, would be the 27th of February. And then Gage Nichols is completing his medicals, so doesn't have an official start date yet. He's a firefighter paramedic student, so he's currently enrolled in the paramedic program.
It's nice to see us attracting some outside districts back into Road River instead of always training them and sending them out
Yeah.
here, so that's encouraging.
That sounds like they both are fairly local then. The two that are having
Casey
that.
lives in Medford, Austin lives in, down here in Medford, I think,
Okay,
and Gage, they all live in the valley.
in the valley, okay, they're not up in Weimer though.
That's all.
Monthly reports.
I am gonna add one more thing. I have a conflict with the May board meeting because I'll be at the Oregon Fire Chiefs Association, but we can leave it at that and stay.
Any comments on the monthly reports?
There, 13 wildland home assessments this last period, or is this,
No, that's true. That's a real number.
it's real number, right? Awesome.
Those were all in Brookside Circle.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So thank you to Riley Burke for doing all those for us.
Make a motion, we accept the reports as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Moving on to public comments. Any items that came up after the agenda was posted? We've already discussed the future agenda items, unless there are any other items the board would like to discuss. All righty, presentation of the union grievance. So we were presented with a grievance from the union. If the union would like to discuss, present that to us, or the board goes into a closed session to discuss it.
One question on.
Yes, sir.
The solar. Mentioned that a CPA is gonna take a look at that. Will he account for the offtake of the costs as part of the overall cost package? I think if you right now it's about $50,000 a year.
I'm not exactly sure what the scope would be from the auditor, but that would be a viable question to our auditor when we are looking at. We can't use our current auditor, so we would have to go out and contract with another auditor, so that would.
And is there a conflict there, or what's the problem with the auditor?
From what I understood from the chief is our auditor can't audit those type of grants, and it is a conflict with our auditor. That's why he said we had to go to another auditor. So.
I don't, they like, they don't.
The great thing. Yeah.
But we're still gonna.
Yeah.
All right. So the grievance in particular pertains to trade time and previous practice. We have a 40-hour employee currently, and because of her current situation being the only 40-hour employee, she was given permission to trade with herself in certain circumstances. So in these circumstances, each time it still had to ensure that there was appropriate staffing and that it wouldn't affect anything else and it wouldn't create overtime. Recently, she applied to take some time trade with herself again. And it was initially approved and then denied shortly afterwards. The union feels that this is a violation of section 16 point.
Section 6.16, exchange of time requests that are properly filled out and submitted shall not be arbitrarily denied.
All right.
In addition to this, through the course of the conversations in our admin's decision, one has happened in the past, and I believe we've submitted proof of past exchanges, and Chief has admitted that it has happened in the past, so we have a creation of past practice. And pursuant to section 4, all rights and privileges enjoyed by the employees in the district at the present time, which are not included in this agreement, shall remain in full force, unchanged and unaffected in any manner during the terms of this agreement unless changed by mutual consent. So we have past practice, both proven and admitted to that this has been a practice that's been allowed in the past. The reason that it was denied was arbitrary, in our opinion, arbitrary in manner, especially that leave time was approved for that same period. The union requests that we, one, reimburse those 10 hours of vacation time that were taken, and two, we continue with the current past practice of allowing that member who has no peers at that level to continue with the previous past practice that was allowed up until an agreement was made by mutual consent to change such activities. But as of right now, just based on the current agreement and standing.
All right, thank you for that presentation. Do any board members have direct questions to the union specifically before we go to the closed session?
Notice there was an evidence list in the complaint and the grievance. And are we going to be availed that and a chance to examine that evidence prior to?
I got an entire pack.
There you go.
And I just want to know, I'm curious why this wasn't provided in advance.
It came in a zipped file. It was attached to the email just because there's so many documents.
Oh, it wasn't here?
Yes. Hey, if you want, I can make copies of all of that information for everyone.
I have a grievance letter. I have a grievance response and an attorney response, but I don't see a zip file in here.
I'd like some clarification if I could. Trade with yourself. I've never heard of that concept. How does that work?
Yeah, so typically, it's the trade is between two members on opposing shifts to exchange their time. However, our 40-hour employee doesn't have any peers because we only hired one single role paramedic. We don't have others to trade with. There's nobody that falls into that 40-hour category of that 10-hour workday. And in the past, because she's on that 4-day schedule, has been allowed to say, hey, can I trade my Monday for a Friday? And alter the schedule that way so that she's
So
not
it's like
always.
kind of
so
like
she's-
flex time. I
Yeah,
guess.
flex time. So she's not always working Monday through Friday.
I
She
see.
has something going on Monday, a doctor's appointment or something. Rather than lose her, it's actually beneficial, in my opinion, to the district that we have her for those 40 hours. And that time allows her to be on shift staffing the ambulance during that time. And then additionally, every member of our department, at least once every 3 months, has the opportunity to flex with themselves as well. During that AO period, we get that 10th day a month as our AO, and we can trade with ourselves within our own schedule on that 3rd month for every shift for that AO day. So just because it's a scheduled AO day, we can make that trade with ourselves for a different day and move the schedule around that. So every member has the opportunity to do it at some point in their time on shift. So it's not specific to this one employee, but because she doesn't have any peers at that 10-hour a day level to trade, it has been allowed in the past to flex the schedule.
Thank you.
So what kind of time frame do they need to advise the chief who's trying to schedule everybody's work that they want to do this? I mean, can come in an hour before the shift and say, I need to do this reflects this, or, I mean, is there a
It's 72.
72 hours? Okay.
And we were well within the intent of that period.
So if that occurs and this person takes themselves out of this shift, or I've struggled for 30 years to understand your guys' hours and work, but coming from the private side. So who fills that hole if she says, I'm gonna shift here, and now you've got this scheduled opening? How does that, I don't understand that.
No, I completely understand the concern. In order for her to do this in the past, you have to ensure that there is adequate staffing levels for that to take place. And it was the opinion of, and for this process to go, it's not just her filling out a piece of paper and turning it in. She fills it out, consults with the captains, either the captain that she's on the day that she fills it out, as well as if it's on a different shift. Say she's working on my shift today, I would fill out the paperwork, but she's trading for Jared's B shift day. Jared would also have to confirm that, yes, the scheduling is met. So the captains or the AICs go through and confirm that there is minimum staffing without that person, without her there specifically, to accomplish the mission.
So she or them would drop out of that 8-hour shift, or we 10-hour shift. And then that would become void in our scheduled workflow. And then one of the other main captain's crew would have to backfill for those duties to fill that void in the workforce. I guess. Sorry.
It's not a void in the workforce. So in order for this to happen, you would have to say I'm the person making that trade with myself.
Okay.
For me to do that, adequate staffing has to already be established. So I can't take myself off and force overtime into that
Okay,
slot.
that I
Or force
guess
a
was right.
backfill into that slot.
Okay.
And then the captains, again, if she's trading a B shift day for another B shift day in the future, then he would check the schedule and make sure that that's all adequate. If she's going from B shift to, say, an A shift, he would have to confirm that, yes, adequate staffing is achieved, and then the other captain or AIC would have to confirm that as well. So there's no creation of overtime or additional burden on the district to accomplish that trade.
So Cameron,
Thank you for the
to
clarity.
simplify it basically, we have a minimum staffing standard set for the department. A lot of times our schedule permits us to have additional personnel above and beyond that minimum staffing requirement. When there's additional personnel above and beyond the minimum staffing requirement, that would give you the opportunity for this type of a situation to occur.
Correct.
Yeah, it looks like on this day, 125, there were four staffed and a bid available. And Ms. Scott was required to take vacation on that day.
We're going to have a closed session to discuss it.
But
Detail.
getting down in
If
detail.
there are not any further questions specifically to the union regarding this, we'll go ahead and appreciate the presentation, and we will move into a closed executive session.
Can we take
Go
a,
ahead.
can we take a 5-minute
Yeah.
break to clear the room and
Yeah.
take care of necessary things
Okay.
before we move into that?